Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So it's currently winter here in the UK and any energy saving tips are most welcome, especially when it comes to energy bills, heating bills. So my mum and dad have recently had a new boiler fitted and I want to help them to save as much money as possible on their heating bills. And their loft hatch is quite old, it hasn't had much attention in years. So in this video I'll be insulating their loft hatch and hopefully saving them a few pounds on their energy bills. And just before we start, I'd like to say that I'm not an expert on this. Please do your own research. This is how I did it. If you're not confident in doing this sort of thing yourself, please seek the advice of a professional. Okay, so here is the loft hatch before any insulation has been added. So I'm just going to do a quick check with my infrared thermometer. The centre of the hatch is around 17 degrees. So here's the old loft hatch and you can see it's just some old plywood and there's a little bit of a void in the middle. There's a bit of insulation there and a bit of hardboard over the top, but as you can see there's not much thickness to it. It's quite thin, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight over the top of this with some old insulation that I've got. So for the insulation I've got some offcuts of Celotex insulation and this is around 50mm thick, so some nice chunky thick insulation. I should be able to cover the loft hatch with these two offcuts. So I started off by removing that bit of hardboard on the top of the hatch. And that revealed some polystyrene insulation underneath, which was held in by the hardboard. So I want to get this permanently fixed in place. I've got some hard as nails instant grab adhesive, and I'm just going to add some to the underside of the hatch. This is a solvent free based instant grab so that it doesn't melt the polystyrene, and then I could just push it back into position nice and firm and then use the instant grab again to fill any little cracks and voids. Now I have some aluminium tape. This is to fill any holes to stop airflow getting through. So I'm just going to seal around that polystyrene now. It's really satisfying to work with, this aluminium tape, really easy to work with and sticks well. So now I just wanted to add a lip around the edge of the loft hatch. So I'm using a marker pen here to draw a line of a couple of centimeters, and that will make it easier to fit the loft hatch. You don't want to put the insulation right up against the edges of the hatch. Now for the Celotex, I'm going to offer it up and then just measure and mark for cutting. To cut this I'm using a fine tooth saw and that worked well. Now for the next piece, not too much measuring going on here, I'm just offering it up and marking out roughly where I need to make the cuts. And again with the instant grab, I'm going to add plenty to the back of this just to keep it still. And then use those lines that I drew to keep everything away from the edge. And then I filled any gaps again with the instant grab. Now to go over everything again with the aluminium foil tape. First of all, sealing up that join between the two pieces of insulation. And now I'm sealing the area where the insulation meets the hatch. So I'm putting that all the way around the edge so that there's no air gaps, no cold air can mix with any warm air. And you can see that's why it's useful to have that lip, because if it wasn't there, you'd have to actually stick the tape on the edges of the hatch, which would make the hatch sort of a little bit bigger. And if you've got a tight fit, it could be difficult to get the hatch in place. And then I went around the top edges as well. So now all the gaps are sealed up, there's no air gaps in here, and you can see the thickness has increased significantly now, so that should provide a lot more insulation. So on fitting the hatch, I noticed it wasn't sitting flush with the framework. You can see that uneven gap. So I've got some of this rubber Draught Excluder, and I'm going to add this to the framework, the opening of the loft hatch. And this is like a gasket, a rubber gasket. It squishes down with a bit of weight, and it's got one side that's self-adhesive. So this should stop any air gaps and give a nice tight seal. Really easy to fit. I just needed to offer it up and then cut to length. And then just stick it into place. And I went round all four sides. And then the hatch fit nice and snug, and the weight of the hatch closed that gap in the gasket to give a nice tight air seal. Right, so now the hatch has been insulated and fitted, and the draft excluder and everything's been done. So let's check the temperature again. So it's showing about 18.5 degrees. So that's about 1.5 degrees warmer than it was before I fitted the insulation. The hatch is very similar in temperature to the surrounding ceiling. So the surrounding ceiling here, 18.4. Go over to the hatch and that's 18.3. It's almost exactly the same. Yeah, it's even warmer than that part of the ceiling over there. So now the insulation on the hatch is at least as good as the rest of the ceiling. Okay, so that is about it then for this video. So I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. It didn't cost me much money at all. I got the insulation for free. I found it in a skip, and the aluminium tape only cost me a few pounds, as well as the instant grab adhesive. So I think that will definitely help insulate the loft hatch. As you saw on the little test that I did, it was quite obvious that it made a difference straight away to the temperature of the loft hatch. So hopefully that will save a bit of money. Why not try this out for yourself? I'm not a qualified loft hatch engineer or insulation engineer or anything like that. This is just the way I did it. Obviously, if you're not sure about this sort of thing, you need to seek some advice from a professional. So if you did find this video useful, please remember to like and also consider subscribing for more DIY related videos. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.